Walking through the Louisiana swamp at night, the moon is full, and the fog settles thick on the surface of the bayou. Bright lights of the stars flicker in the murky water near the towering cypress trees. All around there is movement of unseen life, the rustle of the swamp rabbit in the underbrush, the hoot of the barn owl. Frogs crow with their song in the distance, and maybe even a soft splash of an alligator as it slithers down the bank. Suddenly the night is pierced by a distant howl. Is it the howl of the ghost of the nearly extinct red wolf that once roamed the swamps of Louisiana? Or could it be a rougarou? If you grew up in Louisiana, it's likely you've heard of it. This beast of Cajun folklore is often depicted as a man with a wolf or dog's head, closely resembling a werewolf. Lurking in the woods and wetlands of southern Louisiana, there is a ferocious monster that attacks the wayward and the wanderer, and it's known as the rougarou. Since the dawn of time, people have been telling stories. One of the most famous legends that gets passed around from generation to generation is the Legend of the Rougarou, Cajun country's answer to Bigfoot. Over the years, there have been many different stories about this mythical creature in Louisiana, a common occurrence with oral tradition. Under daylight, the swamps and bayous of Louisiana are some of the most beautiful natural scenery in the entire country. But under the cloak of darkness, many believe that a creature lurks in the shadows. It surely is a magnificent monster, inspiring many folklore and legends passed down for generations. But still many wonder, how did this legend begin? Known also as the loup-garou, it is a werewolf-type creature living in the Cajun folklore of Louisiana. The story was born in France in medieval times, when they actually believed in werewolves. This creepy creature is said to live in the swamps and sugarcane fields of southern Louisiana, waiting for its next victim. The stories were made and used to keep children in line and out of the woods. Myths, stories, and legends about the rougarou have been told before and during the Civil War. The rougarou has been haunting the swamps of Louisiana for many years. The cannibalistic nature comes from the tales of the Wendigo. The height of the rougarou comes from the tales of Bigfoot. Its wolf-dog-like appearance comes from the tales of werewolf in France, while the creature scaring children comes from the tale of the boogeyman. Through the centuries, many crimes have been blamed on this creature. If a child disappeared or a house was ransacked, it was easily blamed on the rougarou. The villagers would capture people that they believed to be a rougarou and then hold a public trial. Usually they would find someone in the woods or someone in the village who was just acting strange. French and Canadian settlers eventually spread the legend of the rougarou to Louisiana, and it was through the Cajun French that loup-garou evolved into the rougarou. Often described as half-man, half-wolf, the rougarou is a French version of the werewolf. According to legend, it lurks in swamps of Arcadia in greater New Orleans. The belief in rougarous is especially strong among French Canadians, Cajun people, and people of Louisiana. Many people viewed the phenomenon of the rougarou as a genetic disorder rather than something that you could catch from someone else, or be cursed into it by a witch or a voodoo priestess. According to the genetic version, a person's life would be normal until whatever happened to trigger the condition. The person that turns, their body becomes enlarged and they develop a craving for raw meat. In order to complete the final transformation, the person must take a bite of human flesh. Some say the eyes of the rougarou must be avoided, stating that if you look into them, the curse is passed on to you. It is also said that French Catholics who broke Lent for 7 years in a row would be hunted down and killed by the beast. How to become a rougarou? According to the Cajun folklore, the rougarou is a human placed under a spell. Those under the spell have the opportunity to change back to human after 101 days, but only by transferring the curse to a willing victim. It makes you wonder, who would be up to that task? In some accounts, the process of transferring the curse requires the helping human to draw the blood of the rougarou. After this ritual is complete, the rougarou can return to its human form. Other stories say the rougarou is permanently cursed, shape-shifting into its beast form at night and changing back to its human form by sunrise. Similar to depictions in the werewolf tales, during the day, however, the rougarou appears sickly and vulnerable. Those who are turned into the rougarou by a witch for their bad actions, they don't become a werewolf the same way as other werewolves. And some say anyone who is cured can turn other rule breakers or troublemakers into the rougarou just by looking into their eyes, because the eyes are the windows to the soul. If the rougarou isn't cured, killed, or doesn't change their misbehaving, rule-breaking ways, a person will permanently stay a rougarou and will never turn back into a human. Some legends say the beast can only be killed by fire, but still, there are ways to deal with the Cajun monster. It is believed that you can protect yourself from the beast by placing 13 small objects on the ground near any entrance that you wish to safeguard. If the rougarou comes by, it will become so preoccupied with counting the objects. The creature has poor math skills and it can't count up to 13. So this will leave it confused, continuously counting and recounting till the sun comes up. And by dawn, its human form would begin to resurface, forcing it to retreat. To protect oneself from the rougarou in the past, people tried to avoid encountering the rougarou altogether. Men would place a leaf in their wallet to ward it off, and women often painted hexagons on the center of their floor and said prayers to keep it away. The details of the rougarou has changed through time. In modern Cajun, Louisiana time, the beast has developed some consistent characteristics. It is described as standing between 7 to 8 feet tall and has razor-sharp teeth and glowing red eyes. It becomes its animal form on the night of the full moon. It could be anyone during the day, your neighbor or a librarian or your dentist. Many believe the storms of the past brought the creature to the city of New Orleans. Many claim to hear the terrifying howls and growls through the night. Many who grew up in Loup claim their family always warned them to be home before dark, or the rougarou would get them. They were no strangers to the rougarou legend. It was an everyday part of their life. A couple powers of the rougarou are the ability to shapeshift. Once the person takes the bite of that human flesh, they transform into the rougarou. They then have superhuman strength, stronger than men and easily able to crush bones. They have the speed of animals moving extremely fast, a necessity when hunting prey. Rougarous are flesh eaters. It's what's for dinner and its primary motivation. Despite its impressive speed and strength, the rougarou is not without weakness. The one weakness they have is also one of the ways to kill it: fire. Another way to destroy the rougarou is decapitation. People will mutilate their bodies of the rougarou, so there's no way that it will come back. One legend says that when a young boy out for a stroll, armed with only his oyster knife, encountered the rougarou lunged forward. The boy defends himself by cutting the creature's arm. Thus, releasing the curse from that person and putting it into himself. Another spooky tale of the Rougarou involves a married couple. The wife wandered into the woods and locked eyes with the Rougarou. This way his spell was broken, making him able to turn back into human form. She knew that if she told her husband what had happened, she may remain under the Rougarou's spell forever. So she was forced to keep the secret for 101 days. After that point, her spell was lifted. In another version of the story, once a human has turned into a Rougarou, they will roam the streets on the night of the full moon, focusing on small towns. They will wreak havoc throughout the town until someone shoots or stabs the creature. Why? Because once the first drop of blood falls, the beast will turn back into a man. Usually the Rougarou already knows who his killer is. As the dying man takes his last breath, he has to remind his killer not to mention this incident to anyone, or they too will end up with the same fate, turned into a Rougarou. It's probably fair to say that a lot of these stories about people disappearing and bodies being found and mutilated in the swamps could be the victims of their own kind. There were many claiming to have had experiences with these beasts, and by the fright in their eyes, they weren't just rattling on. These encounters were mostly told at night in front of the fireplace or in front of a campfire. Thank goodness for oral tales to keep them being passed on. The storyteller would not leave out any details and told the whole prolonged story, building up the tension, scaring their listeners who were full of thrill and goosebumps by the end of it. One Louisiana native shared one of their family stories. Her great-uncle or grandfather encountered a mad dog on his way home one night. He stuck the dog with his pocket knife, and the animal immediately turned into a man who ran off into the night. Many locals of the bayou describe many sleepless nights from hearing too many stories and warnings as a child. Fear was literally passed down to the children and their children of the Rougarou, just like the Wendigo of the Native American storytelling. That story goes that the beast had once been a human, but they resorted to cannibalism and transformed into the Wendigo. The Native Americans maintain that one must resort to cannibalism to turn into a Wendigo. Over time, the Native American tribes developed their own story of the Rougarou through oral tradition, whose characteristics range from Bigfoot to Wendigo-type creatures. But the Rougarou is a whole separate cryptid from that of the Wendigo. While the Wendigo is feared, the Rougarou is seen as sacred and in tune with Mother Earth, somewhat like Bigfoot legends of today. Not only is the Rougarou a mix of France legends and that of the Native American Wendigo, maybe a little bit of elements of the Bigfoot, all combined together to make the Rougarou really come to life. The Rougarou is often also associated with the skunk ape or the Honey Island swamp monster, likely due to another variation of the myth. It states that the creature is a shapeshifter that can change forms between the human and animal at will, sometimes making it seem more like a swamp Sasquatch than a werewolf. In conclusion, Louisiana's swamps have always held an air of mystery and menace about them. They have inspired stories like the fabled Rougarou that emerges from the foggy darkness under the night's cover and vanishes at dawn. In terms of the Cajun folklore, the Rougarou may be the most popular. Although mainly told in the swamps and bayous of Louisiana, the stories of this fearsome Rougarou have been told in forests and hills in some parts of the southern states of the U.S. The fact that there are so many variations, each from different local, seems to indicate that, for whatever reasons, the original basic story was altered by communities over time. Rougarou is paramount in Cajun legends. It can be found on t-shirts, mugs, and even in Hollywood. Outside of Louisiana, the Cedar Point Amusement Park in Ohio has a roller coaster named the Rougarou. The Rougarou even has an action figure. In October, there's an annual festival held in downtown Yuma, which pays homage to the Louisiana swamp monster. The New Orleans Pelicans had originally even thought about changing their names from the Hornets to the Rougarous at one time. Back in the thick fog-covered swamplands is where you will find the true beauty of Louisiana, and perhaps even a monster or two, including the legendary beast, the Rougarou. Just remember, not everything that scares you in the night is a Rougarou. Many locals maintain its existence and have their own personal stories, especially among the elders. So, is the Rougarou simply a tool, much like the boogeyman, used to scare the Catholics into keeping Lent? Or maybe to help keep the children in line? Is its purpose to show people what their bad actions can bring on themselves? Or is it truly a cryptid stalking the streets at night, just waiting to pass its curse on to the next unfortunate soul?